Roll for Crit here with a preview for a game that's on Kickstarter right now called Gladiatores, Blood for Roses. It's a game about gladiators fighting to the death in that big old coliseum. Everyone's going to have their own gladiator and they are going to be fighting for glory.
Yes, you will be actually representing gladiator schools. And the game pretty much is broken up into 2 phases per round. And that's the bidding phase, in which you'll earn your gladiator to fight for you. And then the fighting phase, where you fight. Now, this game is very modular, so there's some components that you can choose to throw in or out. You can choose to just play 1 round if you want, but we're going to go through as if you played multiple rounds. So what happens is you're going to choose 1 event, which will tell you the rewards for that round when you actually start fighting, what happens you get first, second, and also for the glory rewards, pretty much crowd favorites. Then, if you choose to, there are sponsor cards. You'll take 2 of them, and for example, they'll have senator or banker. You'll choose one to put face down by your board, keep it secret, putting the underneath. So everyone's going to get 1 sponsor from each deck. Then you're going to get to the bidding phase. The way the bidding phase works is you're going to take, oh wow, these should have been over here, my mistake, these tiles and flip. They have the name of all our lovely gladiators. There are 8 to play with, but you'll flip equal number of players plus 1. So in this case, 3. We'll flip 3 over. These are the 3, for example. They look how pretty they look. We'll just put over that. You don't need to see that right now.
Man, they're pretty.
And you will start bidding. Whoever's the active player is going to take their little chip here and choose one. I'll say there because it's free. You do not use this column or this column if you don't have that many players. So in this case, that person gets that one. If there was a third person, they could actually outbid that person, which they have to go bid. Once everyone is done, you'll pay. Now, the way you pay is with your victory points. There are these fun little wedges here. They're your glory. And you will start with some chips. It says here, depending on your school. I don't know if that's on camera. There we go. So this one, like for example, will start with 2 bronze ones, which is worth 1 point. If you can't pay for them, you'll actually take a loan from the bank in essence, and you'll move your little chip up however much you need, and you'll actually lose that many points at the end of the game. So you probably do want to not take out a loan. Once bidding is done and everything's paid for, you'll take the gladiators you chose. So I'll just say these are the ones you get.
That's good.
You will get their personal deck of cards, which has the symbol matching on them. I think is their favorite weapon. And you will also pick a number of cards depending on number of players from these 3 decks, including the cards that you have from the personal ones. They pretty much will appear in here. They're not like unique too much. It's more like unique starting. They come in 3 flavors: attack, defense, and effect. In addition, your school is going to give you some advantages as well. First off, you have an ability. Sometimes they just give tokens right away, like yours. Others, for example, mine lets me draw an extra defense card when doing the drawing of cards, so that will be very helpful as well. And there's also these tactic cards. Now, each school has their own little pile, but you will only get to choose one of them to keep secret and use to maybe give you that extra advantage in battle. And finally, we've got to do some gambling, right? Everyone has a token with every gladiator's face. You will choose one of who you think is going to win. So once you choose one, you'll secretly choose and put it face down. I did actually choose one that's in this match right now. You'll also get a turn order pog, because depending on what their turn order is, they may be, I guess, a better bet or maybe a more difficult bet. So you'll be more rewarded or not if they came in the last place, because whoever goes first usually has an advantage. But once all of that is done, we finally enter combat.
So during the combat phase, everyone's going to have their gladiator as well as their unique deck of cards. And on your turn, you can either play a card or discard one to draw a new one if you feel like you want to get something better for your hand. But most of the time, you're going to be playing a card. And what you will do is start with an attack card specifically. And you're going to choose another player. So if you're playing with more than 2, you can pick whoever you'd like. And you say, hey, I'm attacking you. You play the attack card face up so they can see what it is. They will usually have an effect. Now, sometimes those effects won't trigger unless you win the battle. We'll talk about how that works exactly. But some effects, if it has this symbol, happen right away regardless. This one lets you draw a card from any deck that you want. Now, each card is going to have different cards that can counter it, and those are printed on the side. So this cleave card can be blocked by a parry, or it's actually called a block card. So if they had that, they could play it there it is right there, and that blocks it. Then it goes back to me. Now I've got to play either a disarm or a grab card, and so on, until one of the players either can't or chooses not to play the right card to respond to it. When that happens, that player who played the last card is the winner, and that's when these effects trigger. In this case, there's a choice between two. Oftentimes, they will allow you to play strike cards or other cards, which are very important because they are the ones that actually do damage. Everybody has a set amount of life according to their gladiator, and once you either run out of cards or run out of health tokens, you're out of the match. And the last player who is standing is the winner. You're also not just worried about life tokens, though. As we said, glory is important. You want to earn crowd favor. Some of these cards will allow you to earn favor. You also get favor from dealing wounds. Favor will also give you points at the end, so maybe you're not the strongest person in the world, but if you do enough cool stuff that the crowd likes, you could come out ahead taking that path as well. So you kind of have a choice of how you want to tackle it. Once only one person is left in the round who either has life or a hand of cards, that person's the winner. You count up everybody's points, and then you can keep going for another round and see who has won the game. But you could play really as many rounds as you like for a shorter or longer game if you just want to keep going.
That's pretty much the basic. It's just going back and forth there, and literally going back and forth in the combat of cards. A lot of it's very interesting because there is some hedging. Like, for example, these have different rewards, that some are worth more or less. As you can guess, gold is the best of the three. So if you're in a low winning one for first and second, maybe you're going to focus more on the glory rewards and betting on someone else to win.
Right, right. Or maybe if you have a strong gladiator and you're like, I just think I'm going to beat everybody else up, you could bet on yourself. It really depends on what you're feeling that round. And the way the different cards works, we compared it to kind of a rock, paper, scissors thing, but with a lot more variables than that.
In particular, when you think of something like rock, paper, scissors or war, usually it's like in war's case, it's blind usually. In this, you have not only do you have a selection, there are many ways through the sponsors or tactics or even your gladiators' abilities, which we forgot to mention.
Right, they have their own special abilities, which you can also trigger. Some of them you can basically use as a card during play, and when you use their ability, you will win that combat no matter what.
It's their finisher, I believe, is what they refer to it. But in essence, there's ways to be like in the middle of combat. So let's say I didn't have a parry or block to stop you there. I could be like, I have a card here which now lets me discard 3 and draw 3, and maybe, and there we go.
Right, right. A lot of it, like we said, is taking into account what cards exist and what you think your opponent might have, and also what they've already played. So you might say, oh, they already played a parry last turn, so maybe if I play cleave on them again, they won't have another one to block. So I'm hoping they'll, in the theme of the game, be too tired to think of that move.
Or even more so, especially in a multiplayer game, let's say Jonathan was attacking someone else and he attacked them with a cleave, and the other person said, I'm letting it through. That could be a sign they don't have a parry or a block, which means, oh, you don't have those cards.
Right, right. An interesting one combo here is this dodge card, which if played requires the other player to play a feint. Now, if you had that feint and you put it out, what the feint says is that the player who just played a card has to play the same card again, otherwise it doesn't go through. So there's some interesting tactics where if you're playing a dodge, you're either guessing they don't have a feint, or if they do, you better have another dodge in hand, or you just kind of wasted that move. So there's a lot of interesting kind of head games of trying to think of who has what and what time you should play it at.
Yeah, compared to just simply like maybe some other combat where you just roll die or just compare straight numbers, there's a bit more of like knowing the deck and knowing, and probably if you knew advance, you know that, like, for example, this character tends to come with more like these kinds of cards or something in there. So you already know he starts with 2 dodges or something.
And even though, there's a lot of depth in that way, at its core, it's very quick and simple. You really, a lot of times you don't even need to read this text unless it's really relevant to you. It's just, you see the card, you see what it needs to be responded to with, and either play it or you don't. It's just card, card, card. It's very quick. It doesn't feel like when it's not your turn that you're like just waiting around, because it usually goes pretty quickly watching other people. And then you're also paying attention to what they're playing because you want to keep that in mind for your future turn too. So if you like gladiators and and you like this kind of a theme, and you like that kind of fast-paced action, you like that bidding component, then maybe you want to look at Gladiatores, Blood for Roses, also Latin words, if you can want to try and pronounce those, or names like Britannicus, then you may want to take a look at this one. We'll have a link to it in our description below.
Let us know if you checked out and if you gave it the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah, were you entertained or were you not entertained? Talk to us. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was Roll for Crit.
Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and support us on Patreon. That would make us happy.
Maybe the next video is the one where Jonathan does a silly dance.